Good evening. Welcome back to the Fireside. I'm W.R. Frady. Joining me again is Clint Ferguson for the semi-finale of this year's. I've got to do another episode to make up for where I got sick, which thank you for being patient during the time in which I was sick. But welcome once again, and thank you again for joining us. I'd like to start off tonight by giving a word of thanks for everyone who has watched each and every episode and has joined us, whether here live or has watched afterward. Excuse me. I appreciate you coming on, supporting the channel, supporting the project, and allowing me to be here to tell these stories that we've been sharing this year. And as we get ready to wrap up this third season, I fondly look forward to seeing you for a fourth. And who knows how things might change between now and then, and what comes forth, and who we might have on board with us next time. All right. First of all, I'd like to give a few shout-outs. First of all, I'd like to give Mr. Clint Ferguson here a shout-out for joining me for three different episodes. Glad to have you on board.
Enjoy to be here. We'll go way back.
Oh, yeah. And he is one of the Lacy Road gang that you hear about in the Legends of Lacy Road. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my family and my friends who have been there, listened, and have supported me for the entirety of all of these episodes, and have also shared in some of the adventures that we tell as these stories. I would also like to give a shout out to my good friends. First of all, didn't get to do this last week, but good shout out to Chad of Moonrunner 83, and congratulate him on his new release with King Protea, the 80s Love. I'll have the link in the description below, so make sure you check out 80s Love. And also, I would like to give a shout out to my friends of Groove Studio. Sorry about couldn't get it out there, but my friends in Groove Studio and their release of We Shall Never Surrender. Be sure to go give that a listen, especially if you like cinematic orchestral music. Groove Studio are good friends, good supporters, and they're phenomenal folk. So be sure to go in, give them a follow, a like, and listen to their stuff. Let's see. If you're familiar with the story I did a while back called Heroes Don't Die, it's based on Groove Studio's song here by the same name. So, again, I'd like to give a shout out to them. I want to give a shout out to my good friend Megan McDuffie. Well, I'll give a good shout out to my friend Megan McDuffie and the work she's been doing, but I'd like to give a good shout out to my friend Lynette Drachenbl, and she's got her 2023 calendars up for sale now that she does. She is the photographer, the model, the makeup artist, and even does all the effects and things that you see in the calendars themselves. So she puts all the work, except for just physically assembling the calendars. And she is a phenomenal friend and supporter. So if you like gothic fantasy photography and art, definitely look up Lynette Drachenbl. I'll have her description in the video in the description below. I'd like to give a shout out to Nathan West and Stacy Birch. They were originally going to join us tonight for this episode, but life happens and things get in the way, and that's all right. It lets us prepare for a good night, for a great episode that I know that you guys are going to enjoy. And if it's not this year, you can definitely plan on for next year.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to happen. Anyway, I'd like to bring this to you by the EbbenstoneTower.com, home of all things W.R. Frady. Be sure to go in, visit, check out the home of Ballador, which is the Wise Oak. Look into Darkhaven Manor for the Vampire Killer Tales, the Legends of Lacy Road, and many of the other stories and places that are a part of the world of W.R. Frady. Be sure to stop in and check into the Cantankerous Cauldron to see what's brewing in the mind of W.R. Frady. Right at the moment, it might look a little empty, but sometimes so is my mind. We'll not go there, though. Anyway, but yes, go check out the Cantankerous Cauldron. Be sure to keep in touch with that to see what is coming up. Maybe even see future events and things. Be sure to check out Wolf Moon Studios. Be sure to check out Wolf Moon Studios and keep a check on it. They will have featured artists and artwork, and it'll be my own personal gallery as well. So keep an eye on that. So remember, go visit the EbbenstoneTower.com, the home of all things W.R. Frady. I could give a shout out to Be Your Own Hero Productions and Stroh's Sinister Cinema. The premiere for Stroh's Sinister Cinema is going to be taking place. The first episode is going to be premiered at Golden Ticket Twin Cinemas in Lenoir.
It's coming up.
Yep. And if you want to go see this first episode of Stroh's Sinister Cinema and meet some of the cast and crew, be sure to go on to BeYourOwnHero.com or Be Your Own Hero Productions Facebook page. Be Your Own Hero's Facebook page, and look at Stroh's Sinister Cinema, and the information's there. Tickets, 4 seats, are $5 a piece, which is not bad for a movie seat. So be sure to go on, look that up. I'll try and get that posted up and shared so the information will be on my pages as well. And without further ado, Clint, you want to introduce yourself again?
I'll introduce myself again. My name's Clint Ferguson.
Don't hear it? No.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just a nerd. Always been a nerd. Pretty much like to make people laugh. So if you go to my page, you're probably going to laugh. And so I've known, my best friend here forever. We've grown up since, we were kids. So I love coming to these, stories, these live streams. Like I say, I wish we could have the other gang here.
We'll try to get the whole gang in.
Yeah.
Special episode.
Yeah. Darn Nate. I text Nate 1,000 times. Normally he's on his phone constantly, but he's not on his phone now. So hopefully we're going to get all of us together. It'll be pretty cool. Hopefully we can get the old house place.
Yeah, the old house or somewhere very close to it, so you can at least see the location of where.
And honestly, if we get the old house, guys, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but something weird's probably going to happen.
More likely, kind of like with the brewery, it became its own ghost stories as well while we were doing the ghost stories.
Yeah, but if we get the Amityville house is what I call it. If we get that house, something weird's going to happen on live. I promise you. And it's
Well,
not going to be it's not going to be set up. We're not going to be trying to prank nobody. We're just going to.
Yeah, we don't do that stuff.
Are you thinking of doing it outside or in the house?
Probably it would be safer outside.
Outside, that's what I thought. So you're going to get to see the big field, which foreshadowing is that's part of a story. You know, one of my stories took place on the side of the house. There's just all kinds of history there. So if we do that, then it's going to be awesome. So, but yeah, that's me. Is my wife here, Bridget?
Yep.
Yeah, there she is, Bubba Egg Roll. That's her name.
Hello, Bubba Egg Roll.
I don't know. She picked it out. Bubba Egg Roll.
That's like a Mandalorian hibachi stop.
Yeah. And yes, I'm fine. I'm not depressed. Despite my new TikTok. I just talked about the algorithm on TikTok.
But that's what they all say.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Turn it over to you.
All right. Without further ado, tonight is a Legends of Lacy Road kind of night. So we're going to do a small return to Lacy Road. And also, Clint has a story of his own he'd like to share. So, without further ado, we're going to kick into the first story. Now, first, picture with me for an instant this old house. The old house of Lacy Road, set upon a grassy knoll, where it overlooked the neighborhood, almost as if just looming over all but the homes on the higher parts of the knoll itself. But it stood off to itself. Its vacant, eye-like windows peered out to the front through an old laurel oak over a great field that extended out. What almost felt like, sometimes just looking at it, almost felt like it extended out forever. But the remaining sides, it would look over the grounds and the woodlands that bordered it. And the old house was isolated, almost as if the rest of the neighborhood shunned it. For it was isolated amongst trees and overgrown fields, and only a narrow road that passed at the far distance of the immediate field wound around to make the singular entry to the home. It was an old Victorian-style farmhouse, and it was full of memories, full of spirits, full of countless things that we would probably never really know for sure. But it was also a home. And the families and friends that lived there brought life to that old home. And that life brought forth the Legends of Lacy Road. And the first of those that we're going to speak of tonight all began, like many of the stories, because, we were in school at the time. It all began one Friday afternoon. You see, Randy had come home from school. Homework wasn't even a thought at that moment. All that was thought about was the relaxing peace and tranquility of gameplay and drawing and art and just enjoying the weekend that stretched out ahead. Well, it just so happened that one of Randy's good friends, Stacy, was deciding to come over and play games, and they laughed and enjoyed the afternoon. And as the evening drew on, it was decided that Stacy was going to stay over for the night. And as always, there was pizza and there was Nintendo games and movies. But the great fun was that we were going to camp out, as we did a lot during the summertime, down in the lower part of the old field to the front of the house. Now, about midway through that field, there used to be an old apple tree set there. A small tornado had torn the tree apart during a storm when it just came down. It sat down long enough to tear up the apple tree and throw what's those things called? Basically a freestanding garage over against the barn. So the apple tree was no longer there, but you could see where it used to be. And then in the lower section of the field is where we were going to be, or where Randy and Stacy were going to be sleeping that night. Well, the evening drew on, and the shades began to creep into the land, and it was getting closer and closer to bedtime. Now, knowing it's pretty much in the summer, it was getting close to between 8:30 for it to start getting dark. And so Randy and Stacy began grabbing their things and getting the campsite area set up. They would take some old paneling that Randy's dad kept on the front porch.
Oh, tons of it.
Oh, yes. And we would take a couple, and they would take a couple of them and lay them down in the thick, heavy grass to serve as a sort of floor and bedding area that they could lay on without being soaked by the grass, especially in the morning dew. And so, as they got everything set up, except for just bringing what they were going to bring later that night, Randy and Stacy went on back up to continue playing games, watching movies, and laughing and talking about whatever the topic of discussion would be it comic books or things. Yes, they were nerds. And they still are.
Probably Ninja Turtles.
May have been. And and there was a high probability on that.
Yeah.
But as the come time for Randy and Stacy to get ready to go outside, they gathered their things. And the journey across the field began to stretch out before them. The moon was shining overhead. Randy and Stacy both had their hands full of items, from drinks and snacks to weapons and flashlights and things. Because, you're sleeping down in the field, you never know what was going to come up. I mean, not necessarily ghosts, it could be dogs or anything like that. Coyotes. So you always wanted to have something a little safe there, but they began their trek toward the campsite. Well, Stacy and Randy became aware that way down here at the curve, where the road neatly circled around.
Stacy's here.
Yes. Oh, Stacy is with us now. And he said the bed cover. So yes, the covers for the bed, that was another one that they had taken. But as Randy and Stacy looked. They noticed there seemed to be someone standing right near the gate of the old cow pasture. And together they watched as they took their supplies down. The glow of the lantern that Randy was carrying cast an orange glow about them, but it was not enough to really capture what was at the end of the curve. They walked up and set their things down, and careful not to take their eyes off of the person, thing, or whatever was standing in that curve, they stood up and slowly began to approach. Slower, they got closer, closer, and this thing that was standing there, it was standing upright like a man, and it watched us as we watched it, as Randy and Stacy watched it, and they trudged forward. And as they got about 20 yards from whatever it was, suddenly the silvery gray figure let out a growl and just growled, drops on all fours, bounds over the gate in a single bound, down, runs off to the woods and off into the shadows, never to be seen again. Stacy and Randy looked at one another, and they looked back at the place where it had been standing. Neither one really understanding fully what they had just seen. But one thing was for sure. Sleep wasn't going to come very easily that night.
No, never did. Now, didn't you guys go down there to kind of get an idea of the
yes,
the scale? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
So you can see, like, okay, there's a fence. We saw its shoulder was here.
Yeah.
You can get a perspective. There you go, perspective of how tall it was.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was stood like me. It looked like a man that was standing there, and yeah, I mean, it was just standing. And then all of a sudden, as Stacy and I got really close, yeah, Stacy's like, yeah, in the morning. But,
oh, yeah, in the morning you did that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Not right afterwards.
Yeah, not right after.
I wouldn't have either.
No, we went back to the campsite and kind of kept watch over everything.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, all seriousness, I'm glad you brought that up. That's what we would do, is if we saw something, we didn't sleep. What would happen is, usually it was you, to be honest with you. I would sleep, and you would just watch. And then, if you wanted to sleep, I would take watch. That's creepy. I don't think you understand how creepy that is. To be out in the middle of a field or the woods sometimes, like down at the lake. We did that one time.
Oh,
we got
yes.
freaked out and saw something, we'd take watch. That's the definition of creepy, where you're taking
That's
shifts.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, taking shifts, watching for something to come get you. And basically all you're going to do is wake the other one up and say, well,
we're dead.
You're going to die. Just let you know.
They said something in the middle of the field, back to back.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. See, that's why we want to get everybody together for this discussion, for this special episode, because to get everyone together to talk about these experiences would be great.
Because everybody's going to forget certain things, and somebody's going to remember more than others, you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, and everybody has a different perspective on what took place. I mean, even though it's the same story, you know, you had your thoughts that were going on at the same time the things were going on than what I had going on.
Yeah, like I didn't experience that, but I remember like yesterday, you guys talking about it. Because I remembered it, you know, just as if I was the way you described it, just like you're doing now.
But yeah, to sit there and just see something standing, and the first thing your mind's logically saying is, oh, there's a person standing right there next to the gate. And, you know, then it's like, well, why is this person standing next to the gate?
Because it's beyond, like you say, your house is kind of secluded.
Yeah.
It was beyond where
somebody could just be. Yeah, where somebody should be.
They didn't have no reason to be there.
And then when we got down close to go inspect it, it snarled, growled, and just dropped and over the fence and off down into the woods.
See, honestly, the way you describe it, it almost makes me think that's what I heard. Remember?
Yeah.
The growl story I told, it almost makes me think that could have been what I heard.
Yeah, but there wasn't anything standing there at that point.
Well, it was pitch dark. That's the problem. It could have been right beside me. That's what I'm saying. That's what scared me so much.
Here, Mr. Werewolf, let me tickle your tonsils. Come here. Then, yeah. All right. Clint, would you like to tell your story?
Didn't go to sleep till 7 in the morning. Yeah, I remember those days.
Oh, yeah. That was kind of a regular thing.
We were third shift before third shift was a thing. We were born to be third shifters when we grew up to work. Yeah. That's why third shift doesn't bother me. Maybe that's why, for real. Maybe that's why third shift doesn't bother me.
You're used to working the graveyard shift, complete with the graveyard.
Yeah. Honestly, no joke, that might be why. Because as a kid, I didn't sleep at night. Either I was playing video games or I wasn't getting sleep at the Amityville house, that's what I call it. Because it looked like the Amityville house, sort of, from the side especially. It had the classic, like you said, the eyes, the windows and stuff. So, my story, it's not going to be too extravagant. It's not going to be too lengthy, but it is a true story. I didn't experience this firsthand. I heard it from the horse's mouth, basically. The police department in my city, several years ago, this is a true story now, so hang on, wait for it. The police department in my city, there was an officer that was working night shift, obviously. Well, we would patrol just the whole town. There wasn't a set schedule. We didn't have to be at certain places. We would just drive the town, and there's not much to it. It's like Mayberry. You can be on one end or the other in 2 minutes. Yeah. So this officer was driving down the road, Main Street, is what we call it, 321A, I guess. And it was near the middle school. And right across the street, middle school was a T intersection. There you go. Is that right? T intersection. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when you left the middle school and went straight across the railroad track, Stacy will get this, you would head towards a grocery store. So that road from the middle school to the grocery store, Stacy, is what I'm talking about. Well, right when you went across the railroad tracks onto this road, there was a church and a huge cemetery up on top of the hill, and that's where we actually would hang out sometimes later down the road for Halloween.
Some creepy stuff happened there.
Oh, yeah. Well, this officer turns down this road, and this officer definitely is not the one to do a prank about the supernatural. Definitely not. He wasn't into supernatural. He's just a regular guy. He's not weird like us.
Proud to admit I am.
Yeah, so he's driving down the road, and right when he gets to the cemetery where there's a rock wall on the sidewalk, he said there was a little girl that darted across the road. She was probably, 8 or so. I think he estimated how old she was. So she's in the road, so he has to yank it over. He doesn't wreck or anything. So he goes around, and obviously this is like 2 a.m. So he stops and turns around, and this is immediately, like he immediately stops and gets out of his car. He didn't go down the road and turn around to give her time to, hide or anything. He literally went, like she's walking, he went around her, parked, immediately jumped out the car, make sure she was okay. You guessed it, she's not there. She's gone. And there's nowhere she could have went to. The direction she was running towards is where the wall was. It was too high for her to climb, jump up on top of, or whatever. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, that is the intro to Silent Hill. It is. Now to think about it. But this was way before Silent Hill was a thing. But if you watch the intro to Silent Hill, that's legit what happened. He's driving down this road. A girl runs out in front of him. He swerves to miss, and she's gone. So he said from that point on, he will no longer drive down that road. Like I say, this guy isn't into supernatural. He's not one to lie. He's not going to make this up. So he said, nope, not doing that anymore. Not going down the street anymore. He knocked on doors. The only place she could have came from was these tiny apartments. I actually lived in them when I first got out of high school.
Yeah.
You probably remember.
I remember.
Okay, yeah. Those little apartments. That's the only place she could have came from. He knocked on the door to make sure it wasn't a missing kid or anything. No, nobody knows what he's talking about. So yeah, that freaked him out enough to where he would not go down that road unless he had to. So it is a true story. It's not made up. This isn't from somebody who, just makes stuff up. So it's pretty neat, and I still think about that to this day when I drive down that road. So there you go.
All right. She said something.
He's been saying a bunch.
Yeah. Nah. Yeah, that was just its own funny thing.
No. Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good old Granite Falls.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of ghost stories of its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the one that what's funny is the ghost that haunts the brewery actually has a name that's known through granite. It's Fast Eddie.
Fast Eddie.
So that was interesting. Because Mario was telling me about that.
Yeah. I should have known that. I was telling the story, but I tried to talk to him.
Oh, well, he was definitely trying to be a part of the story. If you want to know what we're talking about, you'll have to go back to the previous episode where we did the live ghost stories by the Fireside at the Granite Falls Brewing Company, which the events of that became its own ghost story as well as the ghost stories being told. So, a lot of fun there. But and if you want to go check it out, please do so. Have fun. It was a lot of fun. We did. Again, like to thank Mario for being a generous host and having us that night. Well, it looks like once more we leave the church in Granite.
Yep.
Right there at the corner of
Middle school.
Highland and Sunset. And, Highland 321 Sunset.
Yeah, Main Street. Yeah.
And now
Not far.
we go back down the road to the road of Lacy Road.
Not even a mile.
Not about a mile, a mile, maybe a mile and a half. And once more, this starts on a midsummer's Friday evening. Or it might have even been mid-spring. I'll say summer because of the stuff that we were doing.
Yeah, because it was outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, we were stupid. We usually stayed out in the cold too, so who knows?
Yeah, that was camping.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if we was out there just laying out, yeah, it'd probably have to be in summertime.
The sun had set over the old house at Lacy Road. The shadows had crept in and robbed the light from the old knoll. Clint had come over to visit Randy, and it was planned that they were going to stay out in the field overnight. Recurring motive here, right? And so they gathered their things and set up the camp about midways down the field, about close to where the apple tree would have been. Not as far down as the previous story, but closer to the house.
Yeah.
And it was a wide open field that, without any trees in sight and no street lights around to push back the shadows, it was always a wonderful time to sleep out and just look up at the stars.
Because usually the moon was out and it lit everything up.
Oh, yes. When the moon shines on this area, it was as if you were in the light of day, just a little more silvery. Because everything had a silvery sheen, but it was as visible and vibrant as the day. And often, Clint and Randy, or Stacy and Randy, or sometimes even Aaron and Randy would camp out in the field just to lay out, look at the stars, look at the moon, just enjoy the night sky, or see what kind of creep factor could be found during that time. A lot of times there were. But the shadows drew in, and the night settled over the house at Lacy Road. Clint and Randy went in, got the food that was being made. I think it was burgers that evening. And as they went back outside, they spent some time playing a few games, but were really eager to get outside and look at the stars. And, overhead bats would flit as they'd go through the sky. And you could hear a whippoorwill off in the distance down toward the lake. Well, the night drew on, and the moon had come up over the horizon. Randy and Clint were talking about various topics, from whatever comic book happened to be big at the time, probably a Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, or they were talking about the unknown and different mysteries. That was a lot of times topic of discussion.
What if?
Yeah, what if? The opening statements that builds 1,000 stories. What if?
Yeah.
And the night drew on, and Randy's family had a small pack of little dogs that served as the resident alarm system. If you so much as crossed the field and they were aware of it, you heard about it. And a chorus of barks and yips. And it was almost as if they were trying to say hey to you while letting everybody else know that you're there. Well, the dogs, it was shortly after midnight that the dogs began barking and carrying on about something toward the back of the house. So, being inquisitive,
Yeah, you were that one.
Randy and Clint picked up their lantern, the same lantern that was
Oh,
with
yeah. I forgot about the old lantern.
the old lantern, and took what weapons we had, usually a staff, and yes, for me, a whip. I'm guilty.
I always had something I had to, yeah.
But we went to see what the dogs were barking about. Well, as we made our way down the side of the house between the old pecan tree and the house itself, the dogs met us on the way back up, just trotting along and going back to the porch where they would lay down and pretty much spend the rest of their night. So Randy went on back, kind of looked around, see what may have been the cause of the alarm.
Because they don't just bark for no reason.
No.
And there was, what, 4 of them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, talking 4 little dogs, I mean, they would rarely bark.
Yep. But we, after not seeing anything, Clint and Randy went back, started making their way back to the front of the house, and they were just taking their time, talking, again, still carrying on conversation about what was, about the unknown and things. When they happened upon the unknown. See, as they come up on the hedgerow that extended out from the side of the house, going out almost as if it was starting at the corner of the front porch, and neatly a hedgerow of boxwoods that went out, following the driveway, and stopped just in front of where the long arm of the pecan tree reached out to kind of express its size and presence. Randy and Clint stopped as something had gotten their attention. A movement in the field near the camp took them out of their conversation, and they both sat and watched as they both saw something lurking around where the camp was, almost as if it was investigating the camp. In the time it took for Randy and Clint to look at one another and take regard of what we were seeing and look back, it was no longer there.
We basically had you saw that, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not crazy.
They went and decided to just leave their things where it was.
Yeah, we didn't go investigate that.
And they went back inside carefully, quietly, to ensure that they did not wake Randy's parents, as Randy's parents had a bedroom literally right inside the door.
Dreaded that if we had to go back in the house. Absolutely dreaded that. But like, the door would creak.
Yep. But they went back to Randy's bedroom where they took a drawing pad, tore a couple of pieces of paper out of it. Clint went to one side of the room, Randy to another, and each sat down and began to draw what it was they saw in the field. Not speaking to one another about what we saw, what they'd saw. But drawing it out. Neither one described to the other what was seen. They just knew they saw something. When the pictures were complete and it was ready, the two brought them together and presented them to one another at the same time. And other than just the artistic differences of drawing styles, both had sketched the exact same figure. A shadowy figure, humanoid, roughly humanoid, that was hunched over and in like a lurching walk, and a yellow, the silvery yellow highlight of where the moon was shining upon its back. We had both seen the same thing, and both saw it lurking and snooping around our things. Clint, take it from there.
Yeah, like you said, aside from the drawing styles, I was terrible. He was better. So mine wasn't as detailed, if you will, but basically the same gist of it. It looked similar, and I wish we still had those pictures. God, I wish we still had that stuff.
I used to keep a journal of those things.
Yeah, and honestly, that's actually a legit investigative tool to do. Is if you got two witnesses, you send them separate places. Obviously, you're going to interview them, but if you can have them draw something, if they saw something, have them draw it. You can't deny that. Like we didn't sit outside and discuss this. We saw this thing and basically said, "Well, nope, I'm out." So we basically probably, I know I did, probably you might not have, but we slowly crept back in the house. I probably walked backwards, which is what I usually did. I would probably walk backwards, kind of like the back-to-back thing. So somebody would have, look forward, somebody look back. So we go in there and draw. We go straight to the bedroom, and we say, all right, look, you draw what you saw. I'm going to draw what I saw. And, we probably drew for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It wasn't that long. And then, I can't remember who said first, but all right, I'm done. And then you probably had a little bit more, because you were a little more detailed than I was. And then we said, here you go. And it kind of freaked me out because I was like, oh, crap. So I'm not crazy. I was kind of hoping I was crazy and I was imagining things. But now, Randy's drawing the same thing and I'm drawing. So obviously, we saw something. We don't know what it is. It's something, there's something there that he ended up naming.
The field dweller.
Yeah.
Or the peculiar case of that which dwells in the field.
Yeah. And it's still, there were several other appearances or, incidences, I guess you could say. And, but I don't know how many times and then, story for another day, but there was another instance where we were in the field. It's not so much Halloween story, but it's still something weird happened. Unexplainable happened in the sky. And that's something where we drew again. We saw something, we drew it. It was identical. And on that story, I won't go into it much, but I'm flipping through the channels on the sightings or some TV show, supernatural, and what I saw was on the TV. And I said,
when you see that raises the hair on the back of your neck.
I was like, nope, I'm out, I'm done. But that was 20 years later or whatever. But and it got to the point where after this is where you really started going out to the field, and we tried to, I ain't gonna say summon it, but we tried to see it again,
This time now that we had seen it, we had witnessed it and had dealt with it a couple of times. Yeah. And we were going to deal with it on our terms.
Yeah. And this is before cell phones.
Yeah, long before.
We had Polaroid cameras, but, we were, 12, 13 or something. We didn't have Polaroid cameras,
Polaroid cameras didn't have even a 110.
Your pop's not going to buy you a camera and say, here you go.
So get some ghosts.
Yeah. Boy. Yeah.
Oh, Pop would have been more like, go shoot some goats.
So yeah, we unfortunately we grew up, in our generation grew up in a time period where there's no evidence of anything. It's just what we're doing here, the stories, which is what happened.
That's why the Legends of Lacy Road are as important as they are to me. Is because for me, this is our scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah.
But they're stories that happen, but they're also a legacy of not just that house, but you know. It's why that I have such an affiliation with shows like Stranger Things, Stephen King's It.
It's literally us.
Yeah, that was us as kids. I mean, and we had a house. Weird stuff was constantly happening, and we were there investigating it, trying to find out what was going on and deal with it. I mean,
doing stuff we probably shouldn't have been doing.
We were Ghostbusters. We were Dungeons and Dragons players. Yeah. We were everything that the Stranger Things were before Stranger Things was a thing.
We may have had the Necronomicon doing some dumb stuff.
Oh, yeah, we've done some dumb stuff.
Ooh. So, but yeah, it's just...
But you know what? I haven't heard of anybody that hadn't done something dumb, even just doing Ouija boards and stuff.
So, yeah. Well, the story I told on here last year was Ouija board, and it creeped me out.
There you go.
Creeped Bridget out, too, if she's still here. She's too scared to go down and answer the phone when it rang. They sent me down there. But yeah, you guys don't understand how spooky and scary it was. I mean, I know we're telling these stories and you're kind of like, oh, okay. But when you're there and you're out in the woods or you're out in the field and it's like 3 in the morning, it's always 3 in the morning. The witching hour. The true witching hour. True witching hour. Everybody thought midnight was a witching hour. It's actually 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd be out there at 3 in the morning. And when you see something at 3 in the morning, Stacy can attest to this, because there was many times where we would literally just sit up and have each other's back, and we were waiting for dawn, waiting for the sun to rise. I would say, what time is it? I'm like, oh my God, we still got 2 hours. Oh my God, what are we going to do?
I'll tell you the most terrifying way to be brought out of your sleep in that old house.
Yeah.
The most terrifying way that was brought out of sleep. When I was before I started driving when I was in high school, my dad would bring me to school in the mornings first thing. And, because he worked hard and things, there were times when we would oversleep. And he'd wake me up with, boy, get up. We had to get going. We overslept.
Yeah.
Well, this brings me to this story. Excuse me, please. It was a school night. Yes, it wasn't a Friday this time. It was a school night. And I had went to sleep. Well, everything was very uneventful. But suddenly I heard, Randy! And I thought it was, my eyes popped open and I was looking around. My first thought was, Pop just woke me up, we overslept. I jumped up, began throwing my clothes on, trying to get ready for school. When I turned around and looked at the clock, it was 3:30 in the morning.
God, Lord.
Pop wasn't awake. We had not overslept. Something had called me next to my bed and woke me out of my sleep. You see, there's a story I've told once already this season of when Stacy was staying the night and something was calling me from that hallway, and it used the voices of everyone in my family, and then at the very last-ditch effort. Stacy's own voice called me from in the hallway when Stacy and I were looking at one another. Again, one of those nights when you don't go to sleep till the sun comes up the next day. But it went from that to this time the voice was next to my bed, yelling right at me and getting me to wake up out of my sleep. I was literally up and almost fully dressed for school when I realized it was 3:30 in the morning. A lot of people would say, well, maybe you're just dreaming it, but
sounds. When you wake up, something woke you up.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear in your dreams, as dumb as that sounds. I mean, what if you hear anything in your dreams? It's something that's actually like what you hear while you're asleep gets incorporated in your dreams.
This is kind of what I grew up with. These are the stories from the old house that I grew up in. And to be honest with you, it's also one of the loneliest things you have to contend with, because you can't talk to people about this.
Well, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Or you're a witch.
Yep.
You're either crazy and they don't believe you, or
you're a devil worshiper.
Yeah, they do believe you, and you're, Eddie from Stranger Things.
Or worse.
Yeah.
You are a Stranger Thing.
But that's cool now. That's what's in style. We weren't in style. We were the rejects. We were the nerds.
We were the kids from Stranger Things before those Stranger Things
yeah,
existed.
I know. We should get paid, man. God, we should get paid. I got another story if you don't care. It takes 2 seconds.
Go for it. Go for it. Have fun.
Since Stacy's here. Mortal Kombat.
Which, hey, Tanya, glad to see you on. Hope you're enjoying the stories.
All right, Mortal Kombat. Everybody knows Mortal Kombat. If you watch my TikTok, I live stream Mortal Kombat all the time. We were Mortal Kombat nerds too. So my father owned this old Victorian house in the city we live in. And it's actually the oldest house in my city. It was a schoolhouse. And of course, us Stranger Things kids would want to stay the night up there because it was creepy. So what we did is I brought this old piece of crap TV, which actually wasn't a piece of crap back then, and old tube TV basically, to the old house. And I actually brought the Super Nintendo. I don't know if it was mine, yours, or Stacy's. But we brought a Super Nintendo up to the old house to stay the night, and we played Mortal Kombat for Super Nintendo.
It was mine. Stacy had it, and Stacy had kept his at the house. It was mine that we brought. Okay. Because we were trying to rent it, and you had went out and rented it ahead of us.
That's what I was thinking. I rented the game, Conflict Video.
Yep.
Yeah. And much as it sucked, because Mortal Kombat on Super Nintendo did not have the blood. So this was in the wintertime. I know this in the wintertime.
It was cold.
We were freezing. We were upstairs in one of the bedrooms.
When an electric heater's on.
Oh, yeah. Not the great big bedroom, but this other one. So we're sitting there, the three of us playing Nintendo. And I keep hearing something, and it had a tin roof. And there was trees all around it. So sometimes you would think you were hearing something scrape, but it's actually an old tree limb. The wind would blow and it would scrape across the tin and it sounded like Freddy Krueger. So this went on for a little while, and there's two windows, and I just kept focusing on this one window. I didn't like having my back to it. I could not stand having my back to these windows in this house. I always felt like something was watching me and something's going to come through and grab me like Jason. Even though it was the second story.
That's a worse feeling.
Yeah. But I just kept getting creeped out. I just kept feeling like something was watching us through this window. So then I kind of take my focus off the window and watch the game. And then I look, and it's not so much out the corner of my eye. It's not like a quick flash. I'm actually sort of looking out the window, and I see something go by. And you're not going to believe me. You're going to think I'm Looney Tunes. You're going to think I'm crazy. But what I thought, or what I saw, I believe to be, I'm just going to say what I thought it was, what it looked like. Not what I thought it was, what it looked like. It looked like a gargoyle wing. I'm not even kidding. It looked like a huge wing went by, and it wasn't a bat. Bats are like, whatever. This was like a legit wing went by, and we weren't talking about gargoyles. We weren't talking about bats or vampires. I just looked, and it just went by.
Like we were playing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, it looked like like on, was it Tales from the Dark Side, the movie with the gargoyle?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I had in my head. So pretty much from that point on, I looked out the window the rest of the night, and I don't think we went outside. I didn't go outside or anything. But I'm telling you right now, that's what I saw. And I would hear stuff outside, sound like scraping. And then I looked, and the wing went by. Kind of like Twilight Zone, the movie, when he's on the plane, and he looks out the window, and he sees basically it's a gremlin, is what they call it. He's on the wing of the plane, tearing the engine apart. So that's what I had in my head. So I definitely didn't want to look out the window, because I knew what happened in the movie. The thing walked up and grabbed his face. So I tried to just play it off the best I could, but still to this day, I can see it in my head. I can play it over and over in my head. I know exactly what I saw. It looked like a wing went by. Not an owl, not a bat. This was a huge, modern day version would be Jeepers Creepers. Probably Jeepers Creepers, because he had wings. That's sort of what it, in my head, I thought was out there, because the wing was so big. So, there you go. Trying to get Reptile, yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
God, he's Reptile.
Hey, Rick. Good to see you on, man.
But yeah, anyway, yeah, that's my story. I thought there was a gargoyle outside. I wasn't kidding. I wasn't trying to, get them, worked up or something.
Oh, no, like I said, we were more worried about playing a video game at that point.
Because I would get legit freaked out. So I dang sure ain't going to make up some stuff to whatever. Yeah. Because there was already other issues with that house that, maybe tell another day, it was a legit haunted house too. Yours was the oldest standing house. Yeah.
The only one that predated it was the old mansion, which the old house was built from.
Down at the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the old mansion, and as crazy as it sounds, the old mansion actually had no known origins, because it was an old mansion at the time when the Moores found it and then sold it to the Hayes family. So it was an old mansion when Granite Falls was still only known as Baird's Forge. So
yeah, we would go up to that house, and I've got several EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, whatever, and these are legit EVPs I would get at this house. And these aren't like, get out. It's not that. That's not what usually you get on EVPs.
Oh, no.
We would just, my wife and her brother.
I mean, you can, but.
Yeah. Like if you're trying to summon something probably, but my wife and her brother would go up there, and we would just talk like we are now. We wouldn't say, is there something here it wishes to communicate with us? That would never work. We would not get any results like that. What we would do, we would just go sit at the old house and just talk about life in general.
Like we are now.
Yeah, and what would happen when we played the recordings back, these were analogs, so it was on cassettes. Kind of a pain, not going to lie to you. Had to rewind and go back. We would hear ourselves, and we had to sit there through hours of audio, and half the time I would doze off. And then, immediately, even if I'm dozing off, I can hear what I know is not our voice on video or audio. And I would rewind it back, and we would all have the same reaction. And we'd hear just some random voice, So it was a legit haunted house, creepy house. It had a bunch of history. It was a schoolhouse. It looks like your typical creepy Victorian house.
Yep. Yep. Axe killer. But yeah, that was definitely. I remember some of the stuff, and that house stayed cold even in the
Cold.
summer.
I mean, cold. It was like.
I mean, that even in the summer, that house stayed cold.
Yeah, that's the best way to catch the
Yep.
EVP. Yep.
You're absolutely right, Rick.
And we would do Polaroids too. I had a Polaroid camera. We would just snap pictures.
Remember the window in the graveyard?
Yeah.
I had that.
You're talking about the one that's in the Falls Avenue?
No, the one that was up in the one in Hickory. Where me, you, and Bridget went up that time, and I'm going to snapping the Polaroid around, and I got the one that had the window that was like just right in the middle of the graveyard. It was just a window.
Oh yeah, and down right there. I know you're talking about. Yeah. But you did you not get something at that graveyard in the Falls Avenue?
I think I did.
I'm pretty sure you got a half torch. I'm not kidding. I'm
pretty sure I did. It's been, that one's been a long time.
Yeah.
But
that's probably 25 years ago, probably.
Oh yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any more stories?
No, I'm good.
Right.
I'll save them next time.
Oh, let's see. No, you didn't. You'll have to show them to me next time, Rick. But anyway, so as we get ready to wrap this up for the night, and we get ready to go into the Halloween weekend, we're going to take a quick trip back to Lacy Road and paint the visual image of this place in your mind. Thank you, Shannon. The narrow, winding, dusty road seems to draw closer and closer to the wheels of your vehicle as you pass the last of the neighborhood houses before entering the area where you find yourself traveling along an overgrown length of field as the road shifts and turns through the weathering of the ages and then makes, after what seems like a long, lengthy journey, makes almost a 90-degree turn by a wall of ancient oak trees that stretch out their limbs in rheumatic canopies as if to overtake the road. As a small, even more narrow road veers off, trailing into the woods, leading to toward the river and many other adventures which had awaited in those areas. Yeah. Before ascending the first step of the knoll, in the distance you see an old Victorian farmhouse, its windows staring out in all directions as if looking for the grand days of its youth, which had long since passed and never was to return again. Shadows from the surrounding trees encroach upon the property, putting certain sides of the house almost in a perpetual state of twilight. As the road reaches its peak, it makes a narrow turn into the area where the cars would normally be parked along the old hedgerow. A tall, just broad red oak stretched out, a great scar stripped down its center trunk from a lightning storm that had nearly ripped it apart many years before. Still stands tall and strong, as if guarding the place from things not meant to be. The old wire screens on the windows smooth just enough that the slightest movement can catch your eye as you see it. And it seems to the viewer that perhaps the house is breathing, as perhaps it just sighed with the depression of the many years which has weighed upon its ancient timbers. An old screen door screeches from paralyzed hinges as you see triple pane windows, or triple panel of windows on each of the doors, on each side of the door.
Oh, yeah.
And the door itself is cold to the touch as you feel the loose handle slightly shake as you turn, and the door yawns open. The house breathes a cold, clammy, dead sigh and welcomes you into its open arms. Or maybe it's in its open mouth. One would only know if you're there long enough to find out. Welcome home to Lacy Road. There's many restless stories there.
I still heard screen door. The tree is the one we threw saw blades at, wasn't it?
Yep.
I'm surprised we didn't end up in the hospital. Shot you one time.
Yes, you sure did. It was me being stupid, though. Thank you, each and every one, for joining us, not only for this night, but for each and every episode of Live Ghost Stories by the Fireside. I will have one more episode coming to make up for where I was sick last week and was not able to do so. Matter of fact, you can still hear some of the remnants of that trying to clear away. But I would love to thank each and every one of you. I want to give a shout out to Tanya Matthews, Shannon Withers, Rick Rector, Stacy Birch, who was actually supposed to have been on here with us tonight, but wasn't able to make it. And everyone who has been on here just supporting and being a part of why we're up here telling these stories. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for enjoying these stories. I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful and safe Halloween weekend. And with that, do you have any shout outs?
Stacy. Wish you could have been here, buddy. It's always good if, the other party for the stories can be here and kind of go back and forth like we did for, the Field Dweller story. So maybe hopefully next time we can get you and Nate out here. Oh, freaking Nate, man. I don't know why Nate's not answering his phone. He ain't had a phone in 25 years. He gets a cell phone finally. He won't answer his phone. That's the definition of ironic. So hopefully we can get him.
Like to get Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron.
Get the Lacy Road crew together and actually sit and tell about the stories.
Yeah, Bridget may can come over here, you know, or wherever we go to. She might tag along if I know she has to work. Stacy, Facebook is the other thing. On this one, well,
Yeah,
they're
Instagram and Facebook.
Well, they're both. I can't do that because it looks like I'm pointing at both of them. One of them is Instagram. One of them's Facebook. I was going to say this one is, but it looks like I'm pointing at both of them.
Yeah. That's right. You can go 1, 2, and
Yeah. There's tons of stories, guys. You have no idea how many stories this man has stored up here.
Yeah. Legends of Lacy Road Volume 1 is in the works and will be coming soon.
So you're trying to get it published and released
trying
on
to get it
Amazon?
Yes. And it was supposed to have been done for the Halloween season, but life kind of got in the way and had some setbacks, but it is in the works and it is coming soon. So keep an eye on Ebenstone Tower, W.R. Frady Facebook, W.R. Frady Instagram. Be sure to keep an eye out and look for more details on that, especially as it gets closer. So, and we may do a big episode for that, or a live feed for that when it gets released.
Yeah, that'll be good.
So, but guys, again, I will thank you, Rick. Guys, I love, ladies, gentlemen, friends, family, countrymen, Romans. Okay.
Yeah, say, where's it going to end?
But thank you. And again, I appreciate it. I wish each and every one of you a safe weekend. God bless. Take care. Happy Halloween.
Yep.
Be sure to light your jack-o'-lanterns. Be sure to check your candy. Be sure not to talk to too many strangers.
Yep.
You know, you do call them for Uber, but that's beside the point.
And DoorDash.
Yes. But enjoy your weekend. If you're going to any parties, have fun, be safe, and we will see you again soon. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me, Clint.
Well, thank you. I love coming out here.
I'm glad you do. And with that, this is W.R. Frady and
Clint. Just Clint.
And just Clint.
Yeah.
Anyway, signing off. Have a happy and safe Halloween. See you again soon.